we're talking about networking. So if we look at the CQ definition of networking, you can see that it's to interact with other people, to exchange information and develop contacts, especially to further one's career. And obviously, in this case, we're all here to further and advance in our career and build our networks. It's really important because you never know when you're going to need to reach out to someone for help or advice, guidance, information, resources. Um, I think it's really fantastic to have a diverse network. And I also believe that it's really important to start with creating your own luck, meaning surrounding yourself with your A team, right? So where do you want to go? Where do you want to land? Where are you now? And just closing your eyes and maybe thinking about who's in your circle now and what does it look like when you expand? What does your A list look like? And maybe some of you don't know, and that's okay too, right? I really want to acknowledge that we're coming from different spaces and places. So networking is going to look and feel different for everybody. Some people, it's going to be really natural to them, right? You might be the type of person that's in the grocery store and you strike up conversation with everybody in the lineup, even though you're social distancing. You can find out everybody's history and focus forward what they're doing. And you may be somebody that's internal and quiet and introspective. And so it might feel awkward to you, but just remember this is the place where we get to practice. This is the safe place. This is where if you choke, it's okay, right? If you're choking on your words, this is the place that you want to do it. It's kind of like your rehearsal, but I also encourage you to take it out of this place and into your daily best practice. The more you do it, the easier it gets because practice makes progress. So we're going to jump right into a poll. Noemi, are you ready? So you're going to see a poll in a few minutes coming up, or not a few minutes, few seconds coming up on your screen. How comfortable are you with networking? Not at all, somewhat, comfortable, and very comfortable. People's experiences regarding networking can be cumbersome, exhausting, manipulative, and some people it's energizing and opportunity. The results are in, and survey says we have 4% that are really comfortable with it. I would call them subject matter experts. They're the people in the grocery store that are chatting you up. Comfortable, we have 35% of our participants, 48. So half of everybody in our room today is somewhat comfortable networking. And then we have 13% that are not comfortable at all. So thank you everyone for being aware and being honest and sending in those results. Really appreciate it. So why is it important to network? Can we send some ideas through the chat? Why do we think that it's going to help us out? Yes, learning new ideas. Exactly. So many different mindsets out there. Finding people who will go to bat for you. I love that one. Who has your back? Find better opportunities, better and more. Collaboration. Yes, the power of brainstorming. Advertising for yourself, branding. And we did talk about that. Making friends. Awesome. Collaboration, making new friends and collaborations. It's so nice to know people in your industry too. In a nutshell, it opens up a world of possibilities and opportunities around you. You never know who you know. And if you look at every conversation as an opportunity, right? Maybe it's somebody that's not even in your industry or field, but you don't know who they know, right? You have no idea who they know, who's in their circle. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that verb. What would be another word that you could use instead of networking, right? People see the word networking and they're like, ooh, right? They might think like car salespeople. I've heard that before. So, what's another word that you could use instead of networking, do you think? Social circle expanding, connecting. Oh, super good. Yes, I love expansion, right? And I love expansion because it's limitless. The introductions gained through networking are considered warm, which is much easier to follow up on than cold calling. So these are kind of words and terminologies that people get a little bit uncomfortable with, but it's easier to compartmentalize and break them down and talk about them. So in the process, you learn more about yourself and others. Warm feels good. Cold feels less organic, if I were to put that out there. And so we're going to break out and we're going to have a discussion. This is what I want you to walk away with. Talk about your experience with networking. And if you don't have any, that's okay. And think of it in terms of even your within your school, within your academics and your professors. I'm not going to give any more away. Think of your professional network, places that you've worked in the past as students and younger. So I want you to talk about networking, what it means to you, what's worked for you, what's challenging, what gives you the heebie-jeebies, what do you get excited about. So we are all back, is that right? How was that? So tell us about your networking experiences. What are some things that really worked? What did not work at all? And if you haven't tried it, what are the things that are holding you back? What are your barriers?
Yeah. So what I told everyone that since I joined master program, it was COVID. So I didn't have that much time to do the networking in person, but I had a great experience online, specifically on a smaller groups, such as like something today where there are breakout rooms. I had the chance to talk to people. My other group mates suggested stuff such as like it's easier to usually when like for example it's a conference or something, listening to when people are presenting and then approaching them and asking them about their research and their work instead of trying to talk about ourselves, like that is a better conversation initiator. That was one thing. And then yeah, that was like we were talking about that. And yeah, how like the COVID and online um, platforms actually helped me kind of. I had a great experience with that.
That is really positive, and thank you. So what I've heard from your group is that it feels more comfortable in smaller groups, networking in small online groups,
Exactly.
and that some best practices or things that work well for you is if you were in a workshop or in a class and then approaching and connecting with the facilitator or teacher afterwards and building that relationship out that way.
Exactly. And then ask them some questions about the stuff that they were presenting. And like use that as an initiator to start the conversation, and then maybe I can start like talking a bit about myself. Oh, something else that someone else that was like when, for example, you approach someone and you want to network, but you have your lab mate or your colleague, and then they introduce you, and that would break the ice at the beginning, and it make it way easier to carry on the conversation.
A mutual person and
Yeah.
introduction. Yes. Safety in numbers. Okay, thank you. Who else would like to share? Which group next would like to share? Because we want to hear from all the groups.
Yeah. So I was part of group 5, I believe. It's more like a reaction to what Brian was just saying. Like contrary to your experience, I find that COVID and online meetings, and I think we were all kind of agreeing on that in our little breakout room, is that it's a little more difficult, a little more awkward online. For like it's a little less organic, I guess I would say. And like how do you, since you had a good experience with it, how do you make it less awkward to like connect with people in this virtual way? Like I'm basically just staring at my screen right now. It's a little weird. I don't feel like I'm really talking to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. It doesn't feel as natural as it possibly could. And I would offer that we have been doing this for some time, and I feel it becomes more normalized, but not as natural or organic as if you are in human. So I would encourage you to make a human connection, right? So it's really important. So when we do interview coaching online, it's really important to establish rapport, right? Just like you would if you were in a conference, if you were in a classroom, if you were in an office building, if you were in connection in physical space and proximity with another human, you're not going to just jump into some conversation without rapport building, right? You're going to have your hellos and your greetings and salutations and maybe finding something of common interest to connect about or talk about, right? So when, for example, we gathered here before the meeting, we were here 15 minutes before, and we don't see each other in the office because we're all working remotely, right? So it's not like we bump into each other in the classroom, at the water cooler. So we're generating conversations that are different than we would talk about in our workspace. You know, we had talked about Apple and Android. Jamie Lee had talked about Christmas and you know, other bits of conversation that are human, that are specific to building rapport. I don't know if that was helpful or not.
I was in group 1, and we mostly discussed that we think it's easier to network in smaller groups, and especially at smaller conferences, and then some of us struggle with finding topics about what to talk about when you first initiate conversation. So we thought that talking about the weather, where you come from, where you live, is the easiest starting point.
Yes, absolutely, right? Weather is something that everybody talks about. And where are people traveling in from? Where are they coming from in terms of a conference? Can I share a story? When I worked retail a long time ago and I supported multiple stores, we had like a standard operating procedure, values, whatever it was that when somebody came in, it was the telecom industry. When somebody came into the storefront, and we like had this crazy training, rigorous module. When a customer or a client came into the store, they were not allowed to say, "Can I help you? What can I help you with?" Right? Because what does that do? It creates a barrier right away. I don't need any help. I'm just looking. So, like on their second or third shift, the new employee would have to stand at the front of the store and greet people and find what they were called NBRs. I still remember it, non-business related topics to connect with people about, right? It could be as simple as complimenting somebody on a coat or a jacket. The weather is always a good one, especially if there's a change in weather. As we know, the snow is coming. You have what's happening out west right now. There's a lot of tragedy. Not that you want to talk about tragedy, but it's imminent. And so they would have to stand there and get really creative about talking about something that was not specific so that they could build somewhat authentic connections with people. So that's a seed planter for you to take away, thinking about how can I generate a conversation? And it may feel awkward at first, but then it can lead into a conversation that is a little bit more natural and less specific. And then you'll eventually loop back around, right?
We had a great team, and what we shared was similar to everyone else. Having a group, like a small group, works well. And one of our team members mentioned that she started building rapport at a conference just by asking questions. And I shared one story around where I was at a conference, and I after the meeting, I spoke to the leader that was there, and I told her that I really admired her leadership and that I would be very honored to have just one like mentoring session for 15 minutes, whatever time she had, and that I would buy her lunch. And she was flattered, and she became one of my best friends, and she helped me in my career. And so that was a really nice story. And then some of the challenges are sometimes, it's hard. We're shy. I'm actually very shy. It's hard for me to break the ice. But the advice that kind of I shared was just think about courage. Courage builds confidence. And the analogy is maybe you don't know how to ice skate, but you just have to try. You will fall, but someone will pick you up. Bring someone with you in that journey. And so just take the first step, and then you'll have the confidence. It'll become natural.
Yeah, absolutely, Moses. Thank you. Thanks. So those are some really great shares, and you never once came across at all as shy. So I don't think you can claim that title, and I think everyone should raise their hand if they agree. I want to, but I do want to shout out to you the act of courage and bravery that you took, and that is your segue into confidence. So in order to build confidence, right? So Who here agrees, raise their hand, that they need confidence to learn how to be stronger networkers? I 100%, yeah, for sure, right? So how do you build your confidence? That is small acts of courage and bravery every day, right? It's putting yourself out there. It's getting vulnerable, right? It's putting yourself into situations. So and thank you for everybody for raising their hand and being honest. So I want you to think it's not like you just wake up one day confident, like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit the streets networking. I'm going to go talk to everybody. I'm going to Zoom people. I'm going to LinkedIn 150 new friends today, and hopefully someone's going to connect with me, and I'm going to, and it's just going to magically appear into some opportunities with careers. No, it doesn't work that way. It does. You fall, right? You fall, you fail. First attempt in learning. And then you learn, okay, what worked about that? What didn't work about that? And it's learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Alrighty, so networking, why don't we, right? So this is something that Noemi and I kind of talked about. So I don't want to ask for a favor. I think it's about, so what we unpacked in our group was having those really authentic, direct conversations, right? It's really fantastic to meet you. If you need anything, I know I'm junior and I'm just coming out into this space, but if you need anything, if you want to just get together for a coffee and brainstorm, call me, right? Email me, call me. Can I do the same, right? Moses, can I reach out to you if I need something? I'm new in this industry and I'm putting myself out there, right? So as opposed to make it about reciprocity. What can you exchange? Right? Because sometimes that feels better. We're sort of, as human nature, we think that we need an exchange to ask for something. So if you are a human that feels like they need to exchange in order to ask for something, then do that. Then do just that. Or being direct. I really need some help in this industry. I was really hoping we could sit down and grab a coffee. And worst case scenario, they reject you. Number two, fear of rejection, right? They said no. Okay, our egos are hurt for a little bit. Why did they say no? Is it me? Right? And you go through the whole dialogue in your head. Not really. It's never usually about you. It's never usually about you. It's usually about somebody's bandwidth and time. And if you're really concerned, you could ask them why, right? Oh, I don't have bandwidth. Oh, I don't think that you're the right person in this sector. Okay, why? Great. Thank you. Thanks for helping me understand. Maybe it's not the right fit. And that's okay because you don't want to get somewhere. Well, sometimes they're really good life lessons too, but you don't necessarily want to guide your way into a place that is a wrong fit because you just want to get there and land. Why we don't, the lack of understanding of its potential effectiveness that holds us back because we just don't understand the people that we can meet, the expansiveness that it can bring, and how it can expand your career and your network. Not comfortable talking to people you don't know. Who's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's get uncomfortable and put ourselves out there. Stranger danger, right? I don't need any help. I've got this. I'm going to do what they call, I'm going to hit the job search world, and we call this the spray and pray, okay? You get your resume that you built from our last session, you're feeling really good about it, and you're getting out there, and then you go and you apply. You spray your resume out to 150 places, and you pray something comes back, right? Maybe something will, but by networking, it allows you to get in touch with people who may be able to support your career journey, right? They may have, you don't know who's in everybody's network, right? And without asking and without building those relationships, you don't know what's out there. We have an analogy or something that we use in some of our networking seminars that if you were to take an iceberg, okay, and they're different for every industry. So I want you to picture an iceberg in your head, and I want you to think that 20% of it is above the water and 80% is below sea level. Okay, in your industry, I don't know what it is. I can kind of speak to a few of the other industries, but we're going to use the 80-20 rule. 20% are the postings that you see online, right? Whether they're in the government, on Indeed, on LinkedIn, right? The 80% is the untapped market that you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening underneath. You don't know what positions need to be filled at the university, and they might not post, right? But if you start building those relationships now, 6, 12 months down the road, and you've had coffee with people and have put yourself out there and a position comes available, they're going to talk to you while they post or before they post. Sheldon, you have your hand raised. How can I help?
Yeah, I just have a question about what you just said. That 80%, 90% hidden job market. I heard that figure several times, but never have I been able to figure out where the number comes from. Like, is there some relevance to that exact number? Like, where does the number come from? Is my
Great.
question.
Yeah, excellent question. So, like I said, I don't have the statistics, and it really varies from sector to sector, industry to industry, and they're based on. So, Career Canada does some postings with statistics, so you can look that up. Stats Canada has different postings in their career sector as well. And it's really about untapping into the hidden job market, if you will. So, I don't need any help is the other one. Miffy, you have a question before I go on. Sorry.
Yeah, hi. I think the question for me is, it feels like sometimes it's easy to begin a network, but it's kind of hard to maintain that network. I think that's what I find kind of harder, is that you initiate this connection, you chat with them, they know who you are, but then after a while, we kind of all go back to our own life after conference, and we get busy, and it's hard to reconnect unless there's a lot of like meetings or things that you can reconnect with that person. So how do we maintain that kind of relationship in a long-term aspect when that's the case?
I just absolutely love that question, and thank you for asking it. So warm gone cold, right? Warm connection gone cold, if we're going to use the terminology, and that's really great. And it's different for everybody. So you have to find something that's going to work for you in your life. And what I would offer to you is whatever platform you use, whether it's a notebook, whether it's Google Sheets, is that you track it. You have your key networking people, right? You know the ones that you want to must keep in contact once, twice, 3 times a year. Want to have a coffee with this person once a quarter, right? People, are they going to help move you closer to your goal and you want to stay in contact with them? Then put something up on a Google Sheets and track it. Yeah, check the box. I reached out and offered a coffee, right? Just want to check in, see how it's going. This is where I'm at in my career right now. What's happening? Any new changes? And keeping that open. Did that help? And
Yeah, I sometimes I also find hard because the nature of like research, a lot of the time you kind of travel around, you're at one place, you get really close to someone and you have like good network with them, and then you travel to another institution whereby then it becomes harder, especially when things during COVID, especially, and like as well as like with virtual networking feels different too. And that feels like a bit harder to maintain. Yeah, and I don't know whether I think like you said, it would be nice to like keep on track in terms of these are the people I want to network with, but when you're like away from the place, it's then harder to like, oh, I want to go out for coffee with this person, because that's no longer an option, that kind of thing.
yeah, so, and you're right, it feels kind of clunky, right? It doesn't feel smooth and organic and flowy and nice. Like it's not like you can reach up and say, hey, let's go grab a coffee down the street, right? Or you're in different provinces or different countries. So I know a best practice that has worked for people before, if you want to go back to safety in numbers. So if you have colleagues from, different research projects, you know what, who's around Thursday at lunch? Let's do a lunchtime coffee and have a group call. Right. And then you meet in, and then conversation just flows with that as well. And it's, yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately, it can make it awkward or feel awkward, but fortunately, we can stay connected and build our network in this space and place too. We have the capacity to build a huge network. We have the opportunity to get more comfortable with it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, I promise you. The more conversations that you have, and not in a sense where you're only doing it once every 2 months. And I'll tell you why. I may have used this analogy before, but who goes to the gym once every 2 months? right? Because then you go and it feels awful and it hurts and you don't get the results that you want from going once every 2 months. And maybe I'll go back tomorrow, but it really feels awful. So I'm just going to put it in the parking lot till 2 months later when I feel like I should do it. I should grow my network. I should go to the gym. I should have, this much, these, I want to connect with these many people, or I want to go to the gym. So the more you do it, the more engaged you stay, the more progress you make, the easier it does become. And as you evolve and grow in your careers, that's going to happen organically anyways. Some of that will just happen. Um, there's $1 million question in networking. Who wants to know what it is? Like, I'm skipping ahead, but it's one of my favorite ones, and I don't know why I just said that. So we call it the $1 million question, and you have these conversations, and they're sort of, if you were to talk about warm contacts and cold contacts, these are really good. Well, they're good for both, but definitely effective in the cold contacts, right? Like, so maybe you've made a connection with someone, and they can't really help you out, but they might be somebody that you're going to check in with once a year or never again at all. You may want to ask them, well, who else do you know that I can talk to? Right? So I want you to write that down because you're going to use it a lot. Who else do you know that I can talk to? Right? Because you don't know who's people, and they might not be thinking that at the time, but then you plant that seed and they might say, oh, actually, Miffy, I have a colleague over at this institution that I think you'd really align with. I'm going to give you their email and you should set up a coffee. Right? And just getting comfortable with those conversations. So I would challenge you, if your response is, I don't need any help, then why are you here? We all need help. We all have ways to grow and improve. Uncomfortable talking about yourself. Who's uncomfortable talking about themselves? Right? I will say that for sure, 100%, it can be really awkward. So if you think back to those of you who are in our workshop on resumes and you think about who you are, what you do, and why it matters, and those value statements, think of those in those business sort of networking conversations. Don't want to share information. So this is meaning people don't want to share information with you. And if they don't want to share it, then they don't want to share it. That's on them. Again, it's not about you. It's about them. And you don't know unless you try. So, you can stick with the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results, or you can build your confidence by doing little courageous acts of bravery every day, right? And building that muscle and see what's out there. So how many people have tried something and it didn't work? Right. How many people have heard the saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again? How many people have gone to your researchers, right? Your field is so powerful and impactful. If you had that philosophy, I tried that and it didn't work, we probably wouldn't be in this room together. So we are here together, and this is just another branch of I tried that, it didn't work. What am I going to do differently? What did I learn? Is it them? Is it me? Do I need to change my approach? Because it's always important to be aware and self-reflect and understand the role that you've played. Like, did you interrupt somebody in the middle of a Zoom meeting and say like, hey, can I have 5 minutes? I know you're really busy, right? Or were we cordial and had etiquette surrounding it? Unsure where to start, right? So high five, you're starting right now. So the more resistance you are, the more unnatural and inorganic it's going to feel. It's really important to understand why you feel stuck and what makes you feel uncomfortable. So thank you everyone for sharing some of those thoughts. And I invite you just to take a moment and write some of those things that are holding you back right now. What are some of those things that say, I'm not going to reach out, I don't know how to reach out? What are they? And just write them down. And then I'm going to invite you to do a poll to understand which one of these really strongly do you align with. So which reasons apply to you? Okay, so 45%, there we go, thank you. 45% don't want to ask for a favor, 45% fear of rejection, don't know, not comfortable talking to people that you don't know, 5% don't need help, and uncomfortable talking about yourself. I've tried and it didn't work and unsure of where to start at 55. These percentages do not add up to 100. I'm just saying. Okay, let's break these down. Who wants to break them down? I don't want to ask a favor, right? Let's understand, why don't we want to ask for a favor? Can someone throw some stuff in the chat or pop in? Let's break it down, because there is a strong number that do not want to ask for a favor in the poll results. So let's hear. I'd offer one, and this would be for the people pleasers in the room. We don't want to bother people because people are busy, right? And we don't want to take up some of their time. And yes, Noemi, other people might be busy. Yes, absolutely. Putting a burden on someone else, yeah, helping them. You may not want to ask for something if you feel like you don't have something to offer in return. Thank you, Sarah. And there goes that conversation of reciprocity again. So what could you do, right? I'd offer a solution. Sometimes I worry that asking for favors will make me look incompetent. Yeah, thanks for busting that one out, Noemi, for sure, right? Asking for help is can be really vulnerable, right? Because you're showing, I'm not going to use the word incompetent because I think that it's a detriment to not ask for help, right? I think it's brave and courageous to ask for help. 100%. I high five anybody that finds their voice and says, hey, I am finishing up my school. I'm really wanting to launch and land, and I'm building my network, and I'm wondering if you can help me out, right? Will you connect with me? Right? Could you grab a coffee? Who else do you think I can talk to? Right? And we need to get out of our own way when it comes to asking for favors. And the worst, and in all of these, let's just talk about it. What is the worst case that can happen? What is the worst case scenario for asking a favor? Somebody might not be able to help you. That's okay, right? And who here, I'm going to put this back to the group. Who here has had somebody come to them, right? Fellow researcher, student, colleague, someone in your family life, work life, anybody in your landscape of life. What I want to understand is who here has had somebody approach them and say, Marian, I'm really stuck, right? I'm working on my resume, I'm working on building my network. And I'm not going to say I'm really stuck, right? I want to build my network. I'd love to have a coffee with you and understand more about what you do. Can you do that, Marian? Are you available? If you've had that, and Marian, you can answer or not answer, what is your response, right? Are you like, oh my gosh, Jen, you are so incompetent. I can't even, you're asking me for information and you want to understand about what I do? Like, who really actually has that reaction of incompetency? And if they do, because there's probably humans on this earth that may have that, I wouldn't even want to be in their circle anyways, because that's coming from a place of judgment and non-serving and non-support. And I would never want to be in that kind of space or place or share that kind of energy with people. Sometimes we were not aware who is the right person to connect. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes we're not aware of who is the right person to connect with. I would say there isn't a wrong person, right? Let's talk about the worst case scenario with that one. You have a connection that may not be totally in line with where you're going, but it could be in the same field. It could definitely be in the same field. So does it hurt? Does it hurt? So I don't want to ask a favor. Let's talk about this. Is asking a favor make us actually look incompetent? When somebody asks for help, do we deem them incompetent? And if they do we want them on our team? Do we want to be on that team? No way. We feel indebted, right? So I'm asking you for something, so I must give you something in return. If you must, then I'm going to take you out for a coffee. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, Marian, and I'd love to send you a Starbucks card for $5. I really appreciate it. It's so helpful for me. Helps me understand what you do in your organization. And by the way, who else can I talk to that you might know? Right? So if you are somebody and I'm like that I'm that person too, like I'm indebted to you, you just spent some time in your life to share information with me and you took time out of your day, so I'm going to do something special for you. That's a nice to do. It is not a must do. Yeah, if somebody's busy, they're going to let you know, right? In terms of burdening as well. Okay, fear of rejection, big one here, right? Big one. Let's break it down. So, what happens when somebody rejects us? How are we feeling? Anybody? Deflated? Oh,
We
I
get
got
out of
somebody.
we get automatic thoughts, thinking, oh, I must be bad, or I suck, or I'm not good at things. But it's not true. It's not true. Sometimes what I tell myself, because we've all been there, it wasn't meant to be, and just keep going, right? And the right connection will be there's going to be a navigator, there's going to be someone that's going to guide you, and so always fine.
And Marianne has said unconfident. It shakes your confidence. Yeah, you're like, ooh, that's a stinger, especially when you first start out. Whoa, okay, darn it. But really not putting too much into that. Makes me not want to try again. Thanks, Noor. Yeah, for sure. It makes me not want to try again too. It makes me not want to try again for about 5 seconds because I've had practice at it. But in the beginning, it didn't. And now I'm like, okay, oh, well, I'm going to try harder, right? You were not a great fit for me. I was not a great fit for you. You're too busy, whatever that is. I'm moving on. I'm not going to put any more thought into it. I took some notes here and I want to share them with you, with each of you. So fear of rejection, also known as rejection sensitivity, as it is often referred to in the psychology literature, can become an obstacle to success and happiness, right? Fear, okay? Fear is holding you back. It's limiting your potential. Fear will always be with us, but fear should not be allowed to drive. See you, right? Also, note, fear and excitement do feel the same. In this situation, I would say it's probably more fear, but as you grow and evolve your networking skills, then they'll start to feel the same. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm going for a coffee with Leah and she's going to really help me understand these things. I can't even wait. She's helping me build my network and I think I might throw up. I'm so excited. And is that fear and excitement? And maybe it's both, right? Let's face it, rejection hurts and it can create a really painful experience. Research shows that fear of rejection can have a negative impact on emotional well-being, interpersonal relationships, and psychological functioning. All fears are evoked when, after we appraise the stimulus, we find it dangerous and potentially harmful. Fear is the internal alarm system that we are equipped with and which exists to warn us against threats to our survival. It can evoke the fight or flight response. The rejection itself often is associated with pain. We are generally hardwired to avoid pain, whether it is physical or emotional. Pain is associated with harm, invasion, and potential damage. Pain is a signal that we should avoid, correct, or withdraw from a situation, hence why we might avoid reaching out to others. So there's some science. I think maybe you guys would appreciate that. I wanted to put that in there. But what no's are you afraid to hear? Let's just unpack it, right? That's what's happening inside of our bodies. So let's unpack it even more. What no's are you afraid of happening, right? What are you afraid to hear? And what's the worst that can happen? So we've talked about that. They don't want to connect with us. I'm not an opportunity for them. What else are you afraid of hearing? Every no is a new opportunity. Ah, yes. Turn avoidance into action. If a goal still seems important and meaningful, then take the steps to achieve it. Go find another door to knock on. Find another path, right? It's never this. It's never this. If you come into it linear, it's going to be a long, 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 long road for you. It's all over the place. Think of people who do you know? I want you to think of people in your circle or people that you mentor or aspire that have been rejected in their lifetime, right? Does it define them or did it help them work through adversity? Know that those feelings that we just talked about, that those too shall pass. They're temporary. That feeling of rejection, that, oh, I'm going to go crawl back and not network again for another 2 months. Acknowledge it. Yeah, it hurt, it stung, but I'm going to try it again. Right? Make sense? Anyone want to talk any more about the fear of rejection? I will leave it with letting the fear of rejection dictate what we accomplish in our lives can make us feel even worse in the future. So don't let it define you. Okay? Let it be an advocacy to move forward for you. That's my challenge. Lack of understanding with its potential effectiveness. So we know that networking doesn't have guaranteed outcomes, right? There isn't logic necessarily behind it. And some people will find it wasteful to do it. So let's talk about understanding the effectiveness. So I want to hear from you in the chat or pop off of your mic. How can it be effective? I would tell you that it's effective when you're patient. I'm going to give you that nugget. Okay. Networking is patience. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't work like that. It's forever. It's forever as long as you're in your career. Those of you who have established or established somewhat in your career, does your network continually tend to grow? I'm raising my hand. My network grows all the time. I want to surround myself with people that I'm going to learn more from each and every day. Hearing about opportunities you wouldn't hear otherwise. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. What else? Okay, so how many times have you met someone only to discover that they know the same people as you? Right? Has that ever happened? You know, the 6 degrees of separation, or you know someone who went to the same school as you, or worked on the same project as you, or did the same thing as you, or is in the same field as you, or took the same course as you, and oh my goodness. Leah, finding advocates, people who will recommend you for jobs. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, get that. You build, not only is it your network, it's your supporting cast too, right? The key is to have a plan and a willingness to put yourself out there, and keep working until you see the benefits. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you it was a grind. I would be totally lying to you if I told you that I hadn't been rejected by 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 people that I really wanted to spend time with and learn more about. Am I a better person or a worse person? Neither or. You just keep going. And while you go, you grow. Who does not think that networking could be or will be effective in their career? Before we flip the slide. No guarantees, right? So it's uncomfortable with uncertainty. If you don't attach the outcome, you will build your network organically, more organically. Okay, not comfortable talking to people that we don't know. Okay, I was just going to say social awkwardness is a common thing. I was so nervous coming here. I don't know any of you, right? I was so nervous. So I'm okay. I'm good. I'm happy to connect with you. And then I want to connect with you one-on-one and understand more too. I think that every conversation is an opportunity to learn. So anyone have any good best practices about overcoming that kind of uncomfortable, social, awkward first sort of, hey, hey, Sheldon, what's going on, right? Does anyone have any, you know, how do you, oh, we've got someone in the chat. Thank you. Practice. Yes, practice. Asking questions. Yeah, absolutely. Could it be possible that the other people, whoops, sorry, everybody, that the other people that you're speaking with or connecting with might feel awkward or uncomfortable too and have that shared awkwardness? So Noemi and I were talking in the breakout room about just being direct, right? And just facing it, right? Hey, it's really good to meet. It's really good to meet with you, Leah. I'm so glad that we connected. I'm really awkward at this, so I just want to put it out there. But I really want to grow my network and I want to understand more about what you do every day, right? Are you willing to grab a coffee, a virtual coffee, a whatever kind of coffee? Right? Somebody had put asking questions, Leah put asking questions. Have your back pocket questions, right? Yes, learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's your bravery and your courage. Facing it head on, practice interacting with others. So this one I love. This is practice interacting with others when you're not building your network. Practice at the grocery store. Practice at the park for those who have little humans. Practice when you're out grabbing a coffee, just saying, hey, you know, 32 sleeps till Christmas, or do you need a hand carrying something out to your car? Whatever it is, practice in your safe zone. This is like a good safe place, and we're going to do breakout rooms after. But the more you practice, when you get into the zone of connecting to people in your field, it's going to feel a little, yes, you're going to be uncomfortable, but it's not going to be as uncomfortable because you flex the muscle a little bit, right? Practice interacting with people, other people, starting with people that you know and getting a little bit more awkward with people that, you know, in terms of the people, your audience that you don't know. And try to stay present. Just focus on the name. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you. Yes, practice it even outside of your work environment. Practice even at a party with new people, learning to be uncomfortable. I missed that party on, so thank you. I think the theme with this one is practice, right? Practice in your comfort zone and slowly get uncomfortable, staying present, eye contact, people's names, right? And be direct, just being direct. This is new for me. Because everybody starts somewhere, and the people that you're talking to, they started somewhere too. And they probably have the same discomfort from time to time too as they build their network, right? We're all human. So when you step in up close, it's a lot easier to be accepting of yourself than if you step out and say, oh my gosh, this person's gonna be too busy. They're gonna say no. They're not gonna want to talk to me. I'm socially awkward. I don't want to do this. So step in, get close, and get uncomfortable and start practicing. Why we don't. I don't need help. So we have the old psychology of why is it so hard to ask for help? Why are we so hardwired to be independent? I think it's excellent and it serves us. I'm not saying it's a disservice, but it serves us. Any thoughts and ideas on why we're so hardwired or why we find it so hard to ask for help? Anybody? Anybody? Somebody had said earlier about, you know, maybe it's like I'm being incompetent. Um, I need for independence. Yeah, for sure. I would challenge that. That's something that really you have to unhook from if you're looking for expansion too, because who did it all alone? Who has done it all alone? Um, Why do you think asking for help could boost your work performance? Let's start with that. We'll kind of unpack it there. Why do you think um, it could be asking for help in your workspace, in your space right now? Would you judge someone for asking for help? Has it helped you or helped a colleague when they have asked for help? Does morale rise? Do you get excited about helping somebody? Do you then build a network right inside your own network? Leah, you're raising your hand. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that as soon as you ask someone for help, the job can get done so much faster, and you're able to learn about what you're trying to do instead of struggling through it. So it gets done faster, you learn, the other person feels like they're helping, so they have a positive interaction out of it. It's just altogether a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And the need to, for me, you know, what it aligns with too, I want to build on what you said, Leah, is when we don't ask for help, when we are so strong and being fiercely independent, and believe me, I know that because I've done that head down as well. What we tend to have at that point is a fixed mindset. So if your mindset is fixed, how are you supposed to learn new information? If you bring somebody else in and ask for help, you get another lens. You learn a new angle, you get a new friend, you get a new network. It's just a continuum. It's about, I think, feeling safe as well to ask for help too, right? Feeling safe and again, that vulnerability piece, like, oh, I don't want to ask for help because if I ask for help, they're going to think that I'm not even capable of working in this company or this organization. Mm-mm. Again, flip it. I want you to constantly flip that and think of people in your circle that you have helped out and times that you have asked for help and you've got really brave and courageous and how it's been rewarding for you. Okay, I just realized we're only on slide 20. Okay, uncomfortable talking about yourself. So this is a kind of a review. Uh, let's just call it as it is. It can feel like a real huge social challenge sometimes when you know that you're going to have to pitch yourself, so to speak. Um, but for me, it's about being direct and putting yourself out there. You've already asked for the conversation, right? I'm really excited to launch my career. I'm really excited to get going somewhere. Here are a couple of things and areas and scope that I want to learn about. Can you help me? So it's so important to be able to have the conversation of reciprocity when you do meet with those people, because now you have the opportunity to learn from them and ask those questions, and they may have questions for you. So when you think about the resume workshop that we did, who you are, what you do, and why it matters, right? Just really understanding kind of your vision a little bit, right? In the next 5 years, here's what I'm hoping to complete or accomplish in the next 5 years, and this is what I've done so far to get me here. And challenge that inner critic, right? That inner critic is with fear. So put them in the passenger seat when you get into those conversations. I would really offer you as well that in those conversations of exchange, those conversations sometimes are just going to flow naturally. But when you are talking about yourself, I would offer that keeping your responses to about 3 minutes. Okay. And we say that in interview coaching, but even in those conversations, 3 minutes is concise. It helps you predict your speech and know what you want to transfer going into that conversation. What is it that they're going to want to know? So, and it keeps you from rambling, right? It allows you to have your storyline. So if you keep a 3 minute response line in terms of the information that you want to transfer, then you're going to avoid that rambling and that transfer of information. And we know that, how many people have been to the office party or the office luncheon or the the academic social, and you're with that person and the only thing they do is talk about themselves? Who's been to that party and you're like, okay, there's a lot of ego going on here. And so I think that scares some people away too about talking about themselves. So if you keep your answers short, concise, know who you are, what you do, why it matters, have a little strategy about where you want to go and your questions that you want to ask them, then you're not taking up space. You're not that person. You're not taking up space. Challenge the critic inside of you. Challenge them to be at rest. Talking about yourself is not bragging. Understanding the value that you have to offer is really a competency. Understanding your value is a competency that's going to help you land in organizations. It's not bragging. Who wants a couple tips for about getting more comfortable talking about themselves? I see a couple hands. Okay. Practice storytelling, right? Talk to your friends. Tell them, I had to participate in a networking workshop today, and here are a couple of things I learned. I'm going to tell all to you in 4 minutes, right? Write down your answers to common questions. What are some common questions and conversations as you put yourself out there that might be asked, and write them down? Here's that practice, 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 right? Repetition, 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 reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. Ease, ease, ease. Confidence, confidence, confidence. Practice being okay with receiving attention and people asking you things. Sometimes that is really hard for people to receive. So practice it. And again, putting yourselves in situations to have conversations, like at the grocery store or the coffee shop, to help work on that social awkwardness, anxiety that may come up, right? Putting yourselves in situations so that you are speaking. Don't want to share information. Sometimes it just doesn't come naturally. And this is kind of, it could be looked at that the audience that you're speaking to may not want to share information, or maybe you don't want to share information. You don't want to give it all up. Where am I going to give you my juice? No, like you're going to take it and sell it. No way. So some people think that knowledge is power. They're already having a conversation, so they're sharing information. They're worried about how the information that they are sharing, the perception of it. Like, what are you thinking about when I'm sharing this to you, right? So they're worried about judgment. Maybe some people have shared information and have had a negative consequence to it before, so they're not sharing. Lack of trust. So trust is a connection that is built by creating a safe space, and you kind of, without speaking, understand if you're in a conversation that feels good, and if it doesn't feel good, you won't share. It's difficult to understand people. I think it's really important to understand that some people are also introverted, and that maybe they have lots of learning to do too, or you have lots of learning to do. So in these conversations about not wanting to share information, whether it's you that's withholding, that's a reflective question, and understand what it is that you're holding on to and why. And if you're in a conversation with somebody who you feel maybe withholding information, or it's hard to kind of get that trust or build that momentum in the conversation, this is when you bring out your expert conversation skills that you've been practicing and start having your back pocket question of some open-ended questions, right? What are the things that you really want to understand and know? So having those back pocket conversations, open-ended, not yes, not no, to stimulate conversation. And at some point you may get a hook in there. And I'm not spending much time on this one. I've tried that and I didn't see any results. Well, whoever tried anything once and it always works. I'm just going to say be patient and look for the small wins. Hang on to the small wins and grow it from there. Unsure where to start. So I would say, let's talk about how to create a networking plan. And we will, but you just need a plan. And everybody's plan is going to be different, but you do need a plan, because if you just go on horseshoes and rabbit feet, then it's not going to have the results or impact that you want it to have. Okay, so let's see. If I were to ask you, networking, why don't we network? Why don't we not have a network? Why don't we network? So we've kind of unpacked these. Are we feeling, show of hands, are we feeling a little bit better moving forward? I'm not saying like you're ready to go change the world and reach out to everybody, but are we feeling like we have safety in numbers and comfort that we're experiencing the same things and we're willing to take a risk and be brave? Raise your hand if we've debunked some of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. So my challenge to everybody, though, is that when you leave this workshop, that it doesn't end. Okay, we're going to start building out a network plan and stuff, but don't put it on the side of your desk pile, and I'll get to that later. Right? Start practicing now. Networking plan. Let's unpack a strategy together. Okay, so if we think where, who, what, when, and why, and repeat. Where, who, what, when, and why, and repeat. Where are different places that we can network?
I don't know about for other people, but for me, whenever somebody has tried to give me advice about networking, they always say to network outside of your like industry. So that way you are connected to like different types of people and stuff like that, if that applies.
Yeah, I think it's really important because you don't know who other people know too, right? And your A list, we refer to your A1 list or your A list. Your A list is in your field, in your industry. So Leah, in companies connected to supervisors labs. Yes. What about post-secondary? What about hospitals? I'm not going to give all the answers. What else? What else do we have here? Where else can we network? Is there roles in the government to where you're going now? Are there pillars in the space and place that you're with? Networking events. Yes, Miffy. Yay, if I had a prize, you'd get it. Thank you. Supervisors, previous students who are now in the industry. Yes, yeah. Professors too. Yes, Noor, getting jumping right in, Noor. Thank you. You've already got targets, right? You're like, oh my goodness, I want to, these, here are some organizations and companies I'm excited about. I'm going to go jump and start networking. Fantastic. Okay. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know. I lost track of time. Who else lost track of time? So what are target organizations? Nora, you already knew. With advocacy groups in your areas that you're interested, they know everyone. Yes, that's so powerful. Understanding your target organization. So mission, vision, values. Making sure that you do your research on the organizations that you want to look into launching your career and networking with, that they align with you, that they make a good impression when you do connect with them. Look for context, mutual interests, and causes. Find the people and events that align with you professionally. So I'm going to go fast because I want to get to LinkedIn. It's really important. How to network. Seek alignment with your own goals. Okay. It's really important to do your own homework around this. And if you're not clear about your goals, then that could sometimes be deemed as, and it just may not show in confidence. So I want you to think it doesn't mean that you have to have one goal and one goal only. You just have to have direction, right? And be able to communicate that clearly so that you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting other people's time when you're networking. But I don't know anybody. Here is a question for you. Do you live on the planet Earth? So you know people. Start with your immediate people, right? Can you connect to a computer and reach out to someone? We're all on computers, right? Start safe and build out. And are there at least 3 people in the world that you like, that you can tolerate, and that they can tolerate you, and you can start there and start practicing. And if you can do that, you can network, because then you just build from your 3, and your goal is to build your A list. Okay, so I want you, warm contacts. I'm just going to kind of give you these. So I want you to write them down. I don't know if they're in your notebooks or not. Friends and friends of friends, right? Family, old and new classmates, business contacts, colleagues, professors, neighbors, associations, volunteers, and references. Okay? References, volunteer, associations, neighbors, business contacts, colleagues, professors, old and new classmates, family, friends, and friends of friends. This is an activity. Take a screenshot if you will. It's great practice. I always get great advice from. I love speaking to. A role model I have is someone who's doing great in their professional life is. There's 4 awesome contacts right there. I always get great advice from when I speak to this person. I love speaking to. A role model I have is, and someone who's doing great in their professional life is. Those are really leveling up the warm contacts is what I would say there. Networking advice for introverts. Position yourself, join associations and committees, right? Those are really powerful because then you have this large group of people that you can find somebody that you can have intimate or more intimate connections with. Connect with extroverts, right? That is obvious. Keep conversations going, listen for ways to assist. And then for the extremely shy, virtual communication. Well, that's kind of where we're at. And we could be like that for a while with COVID. How to network. Okay, so this is about how you introduce yourselves, right? Who you are, what you do, why it matters, and having that. What are some kind of 5 juicy things that you can talk about that aren't really non-business, right? I've always been into collecting things, right? I love collecting crystals. I have so many crystals, and I could name them all, tell you, you know, what their properties are, and it's really amazing, right? So something interesting about yourself that may build some common ground or spark some interesting conversation. So have 4 or 5 of those because your audience is always different. Who you are, right? What you do, why it matters, and a couple of juicy things about yourself. Okay. So how to network? Ask yourself if you can, how can you help other people too, right? That's a network. How are you supporting each other in building your network? Everybody on this group, I hope you're connecting. Connect with me, right? We're career coaches. Do you know how many people we know? It's amazing. We can help you build your network, right? Just by that alone. If you connect with me, you can scour 560 connections, and I guarantee you that I can tell you 7 of them are in your industry and field right now. And that's how it works. Okay. So everybody challenge, your other piece of homework is hop on to LinkedIn. There's a poll that we're going to get to. And I want to know who's on LinkedIn, but wait till we get to the poll. It'll be really fast. Oh, you're going to do it? Hey, why did the poll come up? Did you do that, Noemi? It's like I said poll and it popped up.
Oh, I just closed the other one so that I could
Got it.
do the next one.
So first impressions, even though this sounds obvious, it's really important for you to take some of these away. So knowing what your goals are, right? Exactly everything that we talked about, introducing yourself, and be yourself. Be yourself. And if you stumble and you have a bit of word salad, well, that's okay, because we're all human, right? Just be yourself and anchor yourself and practice, right? It's part of your homework is to practice, 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 getting comfortable. Your body language speaks volumes, okay? Your body language tells your audience if you're in tune, if you're connected, if you're confident, right? If you have knowledge. So being really mindful and aware of your body language, smiling, powerful thing. Okay, so I'm not giving you the dopamine one, but it's kind of like the gym analogy, okay? And this is a reinforcement. This is good. Listen to others' elevator pitches, right? So right now I would ask you to go into pairs and start practicing who you are, what you do, and why it matters. But because we have gone over time, I want you as homework, and maybe because you're going to reach out to each other, you could send each other who you are, what you do, and why it matters with one fun fact about yourself. Is that something you think you could commit to? I know it's the first act of bravery that you're going to do. Okay. So that's my challenge. And you can send the report to me. I would love to see that. I would love to see that you've done that. Virtual networking. Those are different ways that should be in your workbook. Okay. This one's really important to me because the way that we work and the way that we communicate and connect and network right now is done so much in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your conduit into so many opportunities. We are at 16 of 21 participants voting in, and it's looking like everyone logs in less than once a month. Okay. So what I'm going to do, because this is a lot of content and it's a lot of emotional content, is I'm going to put together a LinkedIn best practices page for you, because LinkedIn is a powerful search engine for jobs. LinkedIn has such an amazing opportunity to network with people, with companies, with institutions. It can really help land with, it can help you get into, knock on a door and a window of people in organizations, have virtual conversations and coffees. You're not there today, and that's okay. Maybe some of you are. You're not there today, but it is such an amazing tool to use to build relationships, to build connections, and to get in contact with people that are going to help you get in contact with decision makers and build those relationships in your network, especially as you launch. And this is how we're doing it now, right? Virtual networking through virtual workshops and virtual associations and LinkedIn. They are going to be so powerful to you if you embrace it. I know there's lots of people that I have so many clients that are like, I don't do social media. I'm not doing LinkedIn. Like, no way. And then I would say, and we'll take an hour and show you what a powerful engine LinkedIn is. And you don't have to be social on it. But if you want to be visible to people, companies, talent managers, hiring managers, professionals in the field, LinkedIn is the place to be visible. If you want to find more opportunities, you're going to have a much more expansive list than what you see on Indeed. Indeed does not give you names. I can go, somebody do me a favor, send me an organization in the chat that's really cool, that you think would be really cool to work for. Anything. It doesn't even have to be related to your field. Give me one. Okay, Pfizer. Awesome. Thank you. I can go on Pfizer on LinkedIn, Google. I can go on Google on LinkedIn and I can look at any employee that works there and I can reach out to them and say, oh my gosh, I've wanted to be in marketing all my life. I see that you've been there for 7 years. Will you connect with me? Great. Thanks for connecting with me. Anytime we can hang out on Zoom and have a chat, you would? Okay, not for 2 weeks. That works for me too. Amazing. Wow. I've had so many virtual coffees with people. Noemi's eyes are popping out of her head. She's like, you did that? I saw that. Yes, yes. And I mean, and that's fast and hard and a lot of practice, but you have to start somewhere. And I'm telling you, the visibility on LinkedIn for you and for recruiters and hiring managers and faculties is amazing. Okay, so long game strategy. Networking should always be in your game, so to speak. Networking should be part of your game from here, from today moving forward. It doesn't end. It doesn't end at all. Keep new connections. You'll know, somebody asked me a question earlier, like, continuing those networks and those connections. You'll know some of them you won't need to or want to, and some of them you will want to nurture and build, and you'll want new ones. It takes time. Practice, consistency, bravery, courage. Okay. Last tips for you. Be prepared to know yourself. Be prepared to answer questions. Have questions to ask. Show enthusiasm. Be clear on the outcomes you want from the conversation. That's okay to be direct. I really want to understand more about this. I'm really curious about this. Can I borrow 10 minutes of your time? I'd love to take you for coffee because you've been so amazing and helpful, or I'd like to send you a coffee card. Respect your time allotment. Sorry, I'm bad for that. Offer something back. And then obviously sending a thank you email. So before you leave, you have to set a goal right now. Okay? Everybody, get your workbook out. Set one networking goal. I don't care if it's like, I'm going to put a new picture up on my LinkedIn. I'm going to reach out to a professor. It doesn't matter what it does. Now I want you to free flow write a couple of names that have come to your mind through today's session. When are you going to connect with them? Put a timeline, right? 2 questions. Write down 2 questions. I've given a lot of homework. I hope you're writing all this down. There will be a test. While you're writing stuff down, I invite you to ask questions, please, through the chat, pop open. I've shared so much of your time, and thank you for being a really great audience. I know it's a lot of information and it's uncomfortable sometimes, and I'm wishing you lots of courage from this day forward. Strategies for extrovert people. How about people that are extroverted? That's a really good question. To remain focused and know what your goals are, because extroverts tend to engage with many people. And so I guess it would be intentional. Be intentional about who you're connecting with, knowing the direction that you want to go in, and having that kind of set out in advance. Yes, you're welcome. I'm interested in knowing some, yes, that will definitely, Nora, come in the LinkedIn guide for sure. Is there anything in particular I was surrounding LinkedIn etiquettes that you're hoping to learn?
Thanks. I was more interested, so say for example, so I'm connecting with someone, like I'm talking to someone and say on a webinar or something. When would be a good time to send them like a LinkedIn request? Is it okay to send them a message, or just a LinkedIn request would be enough, or would it be rude to, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I would say you would want to make it relevant and time relevancy. So if you participated in a webinar today and then you wanted to reach out, I would say within today or tomorrow, right? So it's still impactful. right? And it depends your intent on connecting. Is it because you're building your network? I think it's always nice to have, I think it's nice to have a sincere message, right? We were in a webinar together. I really enjoyed it. What did you think? Or if you're going to the webinar host, I was at your webinar today. I really loved what I learned. I want to know more. Can you share? I think receiving a personal message is sincere, but if you're comfortable just sending a connect, then send a connect. I don't think there's a lot of right or wrong. I think that there's some best practices. Well, there is some wrong. Like if you're rude, right, and you don't have any manners or etiquette, that would be wrong. But I don't think that's a problem. We're all a room full of professionals here. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So is that a wrap? Anybody else? Any final thoughts or questions? Yay, I'm glad, Richard.
I don't have any thoughts. I just wanted to say something. After attending your series last time on resume writing, I really want to thank you because that has really impacted positively my resume. And I really, I feel great. So this is actually the motivation that I came for the second one, for this webinar. So yeah, it has helped me a lot, the resume writing. And
thank you.
I am looking forward to my networking after this as well.
Yes, I'm so happy. I'm so pleased that you're getting something out of this. That's great feedback. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.